Hello, my name is Júlio Santos, and I'm the technical co-founder of Fractal. We're hard at work building the Fractal Protocol, which will enable privacy-preserving radical markets for data to help keep the web open and free for everyone. With me today on this call is John Arts, co-founder and CEO of RITA, Your Personal Data. RITA is a data privacy startup that helps to enable transparent and user-centric data transactions. We've had John here before, so John, welcome back. It's great to have you on camera again.
Thanks a lot, Júlio. It's a pleasure to be back.
Yeah, we in the occasion of this mainnet launch that is happening now, I'm very happy to have you on board today, so we can talk to folks or give them a little bit of a hint about what it is that we're planning to do together in the future. Got a few questions to go through. Is it all right if you get started?
Absolutely.
All right. So I know that you guys have been quite busy for the past few weeks with RITA, and I absolutely love the UX in the app right now. You guys clearly excel at the application layer and user experience there. So can you walk us through what you guys have been doing the past few weeks, and what can we look forward to in the next months and the next year?
Yeah, absolutely, Júlio. Thanks a lot for the compliment on the UI. I think data management and personal data management is such a difficult concept for the end consumer that we put a very high emphasis on making it very understandable and very pleasurable as an experience. So today the mobile app aggregates data from Google and Facebook, visualizes that for the user and allows them to control that data. Now, in the past couple of weeks, we've been focusing very hard on improving the customer journey and the user flow so that we make the visibility of data immensely understandable, even to the average Joe who's not that data literate. And that means a lot of consumer interviews, walking them through the journey and improving on the understandability for the consumers. And then the second focus in these weeks is adding more data sources. So as I said, currently we've got Google and Facebook connected. We'll be rolling out Twitter soon. And then
nice.
And over the next 6 months, it'll be very much focused on aggregating more data, visualizing more data, so that the consumers can get a full picture of their digital footprint in the app.
All right, understood. Thank you. And I mean, you haven't been live for that long, but you've amassed quite a decent user base already. What were your biggest takeaways? What have you learned from working with these early adopters from a product discovery perspective?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I mean, we're live since April, so 5 months. And I mean, we're not that far yet, but it's been going fast, and we make a thing out of it, let's say, to speak to 4 to 5 consumers on a weekly basis to really understand what problem are we solving, how are they engaging with the app, etc. And overall, it's been so fantastic meeting all these people and increasing, them showing an increasing awareness for data privacy, wanting to understand the data economy, etc. On the user side, we've really identified that we serve 2 types of individuals. And the first one is very much mission driven. So they come across RITA because they're very much aligned with our mission, but also with Fractal's mission of creating a user-centric data economy. And then once they get hooked in the app, they really love exploring their data and love seeing how this story of data ownership has become very tangible in the RITA app. And the second group of individuals, they, as we call them, the data curious, they are less data literate, but they're aware that they're being screwed over in one way or another. And they increasingly hear about data breaches. They increasingly hear the word data privacy in news, and they want to learn more. And that is why the showing of data and the visualization of data for these consumers is a perfect way to get started in their journey towards data sovereignty and engaging with the data economy. And these individuals discover the product mostly out of curiosity, wanting to learn more. And then we show them how easy it can be to take control and to opt out of the companies that they don't want to interact with anymore.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this last time that we spoke, but one of my favorite things is your kind of educational angle. That's sounds almost patronizing. I don't mean it that way, but the way that you make it easy for folks to understand what is going on. Because a conversation that I have often is with folks that tell me, but Júlio, nobody cares about privacy. And I think that this argument is completely misguided, because it's not that people don't care about privacy. Everybody cares about privacy. Everybody's careful about who comes into their home, who photographs you, where cameras around. It's just that people do not understand that online their privacy is being eroded and it's being destroyed, and that they are even being monitored in the first place. And this is something that is only now starting to come into the collective consciousness, and apps like RITA really help drive that point home.
Yes, yes. I mean, we see a growing awareness, certainly. And I think in the argument, people don't care about privacy. If you ask people, hey, would you like to know what data Google and Facebook are actually collecting about you? Well, that's a very different question. And that is, again, that trigger of curiosity.
Yeah.
And it's already fantastic to see a growing level of awareness. And then we are there to activate them and to say, okay, controlling your data doesn't have to be that inconvenient. And because I think a big barrier has been for many people to take control and manage their privacy is convenience. It's the classic trade-off that we see in the market. People just click the biggest OK button. People are not going to spend 10 minutes going through all of the privacy policy or even privacy settings on certain platforms. So that's really where we bring, first of all, the awareness, and then the activation is done, by bringing all this concept of control, whether through opting out, by using GDPR requests, or managing your privacy settings in a very convenient way. And that's where privacy and convenience could go hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that justifies the huge UX focus that you guys have. John, this is definitely one of my favorite partnerships, because we're so aligned on the importance of understanding what happens to your data sovereignty in general. And we're all, it's not just me, like everybody at Fractal is super excited to get the ball rolling here and experiment with what works best for your users and our users. So, like, as you know, like Fractal focuses on two things that reinforce each other, right? Like, we have this market-leading decentralized identity verification solution, and we're also now launching the protocol Mainnet, this critical infrastructure for incentivizing privacy-preserving data sharing. And I'm curious to, like, if you can talk a little bit to how you can see the future of this partnership unfold. Like, how can Fractal's infra help what you guys are building? How can we complement each other there?
Yeah. No. So we as well at RITA, we're very excited and following very closely the mainnet launch of Fractal. I think, we're closely spoken to the team already, and I think the infrastructure is for sure a very cool approach. Maybe a bit more high level, we at RITA, and I think in the whole data ecosystem, put such a high importance on partnerships, right, to solve these problems, because we're solving a mastodon of a problem. Right. And there's no way that we can do that in isolation or solve it on our own. And we very much like to compare it to solving global warming as let's say, a big impactful problem. Right. If you look at the sustainability movement now, all of these companies have been doing that in collaboration, in partnership, one company focusing on accountability, the other one execution. And that's really how we saw that ecosystem grow and a lot of impact being made by this collective group of individuals and companies. And I think it's the same for the privacy and the data economy space, right? Privacy in this movement should be done in collaboration and in partnerships. And we see Fractal as a pretty cool partner, mainly because of that experience that you described, right? You have already had such a track record in building that KYC solution. And that again proves that you as a team are able, or Fractal as a team is able to build very strong products and serve quite a difficult market as well, right? Because the blockchain community, most of your customers today are pretty difficult customers to solve.
They are, yes. Everybody has a particular problem because the industry is so new, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and very aware customers as well, right? So they've done their vetting and they chose Fractal for a reason. So I think that experience, both on product building and gaining trust, is quite a strong capability that Fractal has built internally. And then secondly, we've had some chats with the team as well. We put our devs together in one call, and I think it was a great match. I love the approach you're taking and this very iterative view of launching this mainnet, very experimental. First see how the consumers react, how will the other participants in the ecosystem react, instead of wasting too much time on building very hard infrastructure. So I really love that startup way that Fractal has. And I think as an infrastructure itself, it makes a lot of sense as a foundational layer to explore how RITA consumers could potentially monetize their data through the Fractal infrastructure. So that's really where I think we yeah, we see a lot of overlap and alignment in mission and potentially in product, working on different layers, of course.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that. And I can't wait to work on something a bit more concrete to show our community, but they're going to have to wait a little bit for now while this is in progress. John, I got something else that I'd like to ask you. Like, how do you think that, you know, because of RITA, because of Fractal, because of other new products and apps in the ecosystem, because of the, you know, ultimately self-serving but still relevant campaigning that Google and Apple have been doing around privacy, like there's a mounting awareness that this is a thing, right? And we're also seeing like very big movement in the regulatory space around this too. And I think that we might be close to a turning point here. Like, how do you expect user behavior to change in the next few years, given the rising awareness and given the shift that is happening in the industry towards more privacy preserving products? Do you think that we'll see something significant?
Yes, absolutely. You know, we started building RITA, of course, and I think you and Julian have the same, that it's very purpose driven, right? We want to see this change in the space, but we wouldn't have gone into it now hands on if we wouldn't expect this change in the market and users to be ready for it. So I think the awareness certainly will grow. I'm not sure, it's very hard to say where in that tipping point we are and how, let's say, sincere that or severe that tipping point will be, or will it be more of a linear growing of awareness. I think the awareness overall, again, as in the sustainability movement, is driven by fear. Fear of what the risks are of not going for privacy safe solutions, of just accepting everything and sharing your data publicly, and that the fear, let's say, the awareness around the risks will be pushed first of all by increased breaches, right? We just see more and more breaches, and that makes people aware of, okay, data, it is still a risk involved. There's someone else at that company that could actually look into my data and figure out, okay, that's that person's home address. You know, if that company is not secure enough, there's a hacker that could find it out. So I think there's really the tangible risk. And then secondly, the regulators, as you're saying, enforcing the GDPR increasingly and just throwing these big fines on the companies. That again will users or end consumers will see that pass and understand the importance of it, because they'll see this power play work out between government and these big tech giants. I think what we've seen now is starting awareness and then tipping point to activation. I think we touched upon it recently. Currently, we're focused on the high aware and high activation or users with a high degree of activation. One thought that we discussed internally actually this week on how that awareness will grow, it's maybe at one point there will be some kind of social shaming. I mean, talking in 5 years. What if you in 5 years, a mother tells her daughter, what do you mean you're still accepting cookies? You know, like that would be fantastic. Same way we would see it with like recycling, for example. You know, that was a tipping point. It became social shaming really through that awareness. And maybe we'll see that happening in data protection and privacy as well. Like, what do you mean you don't have your data in your wallet? Where is it? You know,
I haven't thought about that. It's an interesting hypothesis. I would not be surprised if that came true. I mean, there's something that I kind of, I don't want to say predict because, you know, my priors are not so high, but I think that what this is doing is it's creating space for the browser industry to diversify. So like with regulatory incursions into like Google's monopoly, for example, and with the other regulatory incursions into forcing interoperability, I think that either building new browsers or repurposing browsers for new distributions is something that will stand to become a lot more common for two reasons. One of them, because things are becoming more interoperable, but more importantly, because users, while as they realize that, you know, it's not just safe to go around the web, you need some sort of a protection, right? And right now, if you use Chrome, for example, there's some browser extensions that help you out to a certain degree, and to the degree, very critically, that Google allows them to do. So I think that browsers used to be called user agents. So that was the original term. They're supposed to mediate your relationship with the web. And I think that with mounting awareness, people are not only going to seek them, but also be willing to pay for browsers that they know they can trust. I know folks that use Brave, not because of the BAT rewards, or like they don't even know what blockchain is barely, but they use it because it comes with a bunch of smart defaults about how you're supposed to be tracked and how you're not. And I'm really looking forward to that. I think that that's something that is now opening, the space for that is now opening up. And this isn't just about privacy. This is about accessibility as well. Like, oh, I have to zoom in most web pages. Well, let the browser take care of that. Oh, this website doesn't offer a dark mode. Let the browser take care of that. And I really like this idea of like a browser coming back to being a user agent again. And I think that there's space opening up for that. And I think that that will be amazing.
Mm-hmm. No, I couldn't agree more. And I really like about what you said of, again, that engaging part, that it's people use products, partially because it's privacy safe, but also because there's got these really cool features attached to it. And that combination, I think, is a very important one towards most individuals. I recently spoke to the founder of Xane, who's also working on, let's say, a privacy safe search engine with some really cool personalization features, but fully privacy conscious. And they've made an immensely engaging product. And I really like how they balanced it out. Let's say, how about we reinvent X, but privacy safe and user centric. And that is really, really a cool way to move forward.
Yeah, and it's a kind of buzzword that you actually want to see attached to things. Like, blockchain is used very much to say, well, we should do this, but on the blockchain. And, most of those sentences mean you want to stay away from that. Or we want to do this, but with AI, kind of same thing. But like, we want to do this, but in a user-centric way, just kind of means, you're doing it like it should have been done all along. And I like that. Yeah, for sure. John, so like we've mentioned before, like we're definitely very aligned in this idea that people should be able to control and monetize their own data because, well, it is their data at the end of the day, right? But this idea isn't exactly new. Like ever since we started training AIs with human input, folks have thought, wait, like if they're learning from us, then they're going to make money from someone else. Maybe I should also. So, this isn't something that is exactly new. This is decades old, but only in the past few years have we seen tools like Fractal or RITA, or even like this very idea being something that is not just, something that is discussed in Usenet forums, but actually coming to the forefront. Why do you think that? And I'm not talking about privacy here. I'm talking specifically about like, your data is yours and you can make money from that and you should be able to control it and have ownership. Why do you think that this seems to only become a thing now?
Yeah, so I think the first aspect of it is very much to see adoption, the increasing data literacy. I think the GDPR had a huge impact on it. Because a lot of the tools in our space are enabled by the GDPR or equivalent data protection regulations. On my personal note, what I feel is that the concept of data ownership, so you're essentially owning something intangible, and it's a difficult one for most people to wrap their heads around, right? I'm owning this, it's intangible. Same with NFTs, right? At first, okay, it's intangible. So that's why the interface is so important. And I think the visualization aspect of showing people their data, or even just in numbers, how much this is a high level starting point, how much megabytes they create on a yearly basis, and showing that in USB sticks. Okay, that makes it tangible. Showing a user which data points company collects about them. Yeah, that makes it tangible. So I think that's a big aspect of the ownership, because they can relate to it. And I know, okay, what are we talking about when the word data arises? And I think that will have a big impact on user awareness and the adoption of a solution like ours. And then finally, I think it was difficult to build a data marketplace without privacy enhancing technologies today, right? So I think we feel we're in a perfect storm today, in which the technologies, starting with, of course, distributed protocols, but then on top of that, homomorphic encryption, multi-party computation, all of these things, they enable entrepreneurs like us to build out the platform, that vision of the future that we envisioned, in the way that it should be done. I think if you try to tackle something like this 2010, where do you start? You know, it's quite a difficult one. So I think that those will have quite a big impact on the adoption.
Definitely. I think that something that adds to that perfect storm is what we have seen, especially in the past couple of years in the blockchain space, where, you know, like we started with Bitcoin, the store of value, and then we made that properly programmable with Ethereum. And then over the past couple of years, the whole space of decentralized finance completely exploded. And for me, something that is a big draw to the idea of like, you know, monetize your data is that this can be done in much more interesting ways than just, well, I give you data, you give me money. I'll give you a very simple example. Like if let's say that there is an advertising company that is paying folks to taking a look at their browser history. So every month of browser history that you give to them, they pay you X or something along those lines. Now, if you do that once, 2, 3, 4 times, if you do that for a year, then you've got essentially a recurring business relationship with this party, right? And this is based on your data that you will not stop producing, and that third party, this will not really have a reason to stop consuming that data. So if this is securitized, this can be used as collateral for a loan. Your future revenue stream that will come from your continuous data production, and you know, browsing history is just one example. You can apply this to anything. You can apply this to your driving data if you're talking about training self-driving cars, right? And the idea that you will keep producing data that will keep being bought means that you can turn this into a security and make it collateral. And I think this is just one of many examples that combining DeFi with data markets kind of brings about, because it just increases the optionality that we have in terms of what kind of markets and what kind of products can be served around the data that you have. It is really the perfect storm that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, it is quite endless, and it's just, you know, in such basic terms like this engine, this economic engine being built around data. We are the supplier of that engine. Build the right infrastructure for control and remuneration, right? So I agree. It'll be interesting how it plays out. I think also some parties might go off track on an ethical perspective, because there's still, let's say, a social contract to maintain, and if a consumer would, for example, share their data with an insurance broker for a lower premium, it would mean that in the people whose data is valued more, let's say, would get more access or better benefits from that insurance broker. So there's still so many ethical questions.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Here. Similar thing with the parking tickets. Right? What if your car, you know, you have your data wallet in your car, and the parking ticket is automatically paid, or your fine is automatically paid, or let's say money is automatically credited from your data wallet. That breaks a social contract, because you still, as a citizen, have a choice to pay or not to pay a certain fine. And I think Shoshana Zuboff in Surveillance Capitalism, which I think we touched upon last time as well, there's just no way around her fantastic philosophy, touches, you know, discusses that in depth. So I think it's important that, yes, okay, we're doing this for a really strong purpose. We are companies, we need to survive financially as well, right? So we need to find the right revenue model, but we need to collectively think about the ethical implications and choose the right path towards this, because a bit of a wrong turn could have very strong implications on a societal level.
Absolutely. In my opinion, the most important thing is to provide people with choice. And then the second most important thing is to make it really, really hard for them to shoot themselves in the foot. So the scenario that you're describing with the insurance, it's something I think we might have talked about last time. It's the privacy unraveling effect. It's this idea that there's a race to the bottom in providing data. And for example, in Germany, a health insurer cannot ask you if you are a smoker. And this blew my mind when I came to this country, because like, that's such an important data point. And shouldn't that contribute to the premium that you're paying? You're actually hurting other people. You're joining this pool of people, and you're at higher risk, but you're going to pay the same thing that they do. And I didn't understand that for quite a while. And it's the privacy unraveling effect that kind of justifies that, and a lot of other similar items. If we just make data collection and sharing the default that everybody does, then this could become a problem for those that don't want to do. And we have a bunch of research going on that, not just because of this effect, but also because of other externalities. So for example, if you and I are known to spend a lot of time together, and I'm selling my location data, but you're not, then I'm also kind of selling your location data, right? Like, and you're having a negative externality from your privacy erosion, and I am getting compensated and you're not, right? So how is it that this can be fixed? Like, so we're also looking into that. There's a lot here to be unpacked for sure. This isn't super simple. But I think that ultimately comes down to choice and informed consent. And the most important thing is making sure that people understand what is going on. And if they are involved in a relationship, even if it's just, you now know my cookie ID, this is something they should know about. This is something that they should be in control of.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the choice. And I think it goes hand in hand with transparency, as you said, understandability. And I think we're very much going with democratic principles there, right? As a first approach. What's interesting also is to see how, maybe different parts of the world are looking at this paradigm. We chose very much for freedom. Okay, let's see how it plays out. But there's other paradigms like, hey, data is labor. And we should get currently the wage is at 0, and we should unionize to increase that wage.
Yes.
Others who I mean, this is maybe smaller communities, but say, hey, data is an extension of oneself. It should never be monetized. So I think indeed it's too early to pick a lane on a paradigm. We'll figure that out, but sticking to democratic principles is, I think, a strong way forward.
Yeah, I think so too. And there's a lot of decisions that I don't think that I should be making on behalf of Fractal users, and I should leave it up to them. But it is definitely going to be a blurry line to walk. So on a bit of a related topic, as you know, the internet was built without an identity layer, and this worked quite fine for a long time while the internet was seen as a toy. But we have over the past 20 years progressively moved more and more of what we do online. Like, there's a lot that happens digitally right now, and a lot of products, services, interactions in the real world kind of depend on identity. So if you think in terms of like opening a bank account, or if you think in terms of voting, for example, these are things that cannot work without an identity, because in a democratic representative government, like one person has one vote, right? So identity is something that like is critical so that we can move even more of our lives digitally. And this is super important for accessibility, for example, and also for convenience. But on the other hand, this is also dangerous, because one of the great things about the internet is that, nobody knows that you're a dog, right? Like you can post an opinion without being in fear that that's going to be traced back to you. This could be especially important if you're unlucky enough to live under an autocracy, or if your peer group would not like the opinions that you're posting publicly or something like that. So definitely anonymity and pseudonymity are critical components that I hope never go away. So I think it comes down to user choice of what parts of identity to reveal and where and under what conditions, and the user should always be in control of that. But in your view, like, what is the importance of digital identity, and how do you balance that with the need for anonymity as well?
Yeah, I think, as the lives move online, it's only normal that there's an online representation in a very convenient way and in a seamless way, because as you said, interacting with all these services and all the innovation that can be built upon a digital identity layer, just unimaginable, I would say, today. If we want a good way to balance both, I think both should go hand in hand, the anonymity and the digital identity layer. And if it's built properly, and with properly, I think we've got both the same idea in mind. I think leveraging technology as zero knowledge proofs, and it should be decentralized, that no government or no single party could interfere with the anonymity if the consumer chooses for that. So I think they can certainly coexist. There's a time for one, time for the other, and I think technologies and blockchain technology certainly is a fantastic way forward to that. What my big question is the interoperability of something like that. And that I think is still a big challenge in the whole ecosystem, digital identity ecosystem. But governments are looking into it in a positive way. I would say certainly the European governments.
Oh, for sure. Like an interesting example that I was having a chat with somebody yesterday about a similar topic, and she was saying that wouldn't it be interesting if you knew that somebody posting something on Twitter is actually a person and not a robot? Like, you don't need to know who they are. Don't need to know anything about them. But then, like, it kind of helps you decide, do I engage or do I not? And I took that a little bit further. Like, I like the idea that if Twitter optionally offers users identity verification, then you, depending on your sensibility, what you want and don't want to be exposed to, can choose to have a Twitter feed that consists only of tweets from people with verified identities. Now, nobody's forced to verify their identities. Nobody's forced to pick this filter either. But this option doesn't exist today. I know some of the accounts that I'm following because I know a lot of those people personally. There's a bunch of others that, like, I have no clue. And they're probably real humans because, I wouldn't follow them otherwise. But what about the comment streams? What about everything else that happens in the background that is adding noise and that is making you perceive an issue as more important, or that there's a larger community standing behind something when it's essentially a bot farm? And I think that this option being there, again, as an option, is something that would really help, because it is just a variable that we can't play with today.
I love it. I hadn't heard of the idea, but it's a really great thought. I mean, certainly because, as you talked about, all of these bots, it really is a problem. And I'm just stepping a bit out of the privacy sphere only, but misinformation and worse, disinformation is really a huge problem in our society. So I think that could be a fantastic solution, certainly because it's verified by the consumer. Okay, this is an individual, and it's not a third party saying, okay, I'm going to manage the content, whether computer or individual, I'm going to manage it for people. I think this is a pretty cool idea, actually.
Yeah. All right. So last question, John. And, since I had you on camera before, I'm not going to ask you again what your one wish for the ad tech industry would be. But instead, if you could be anybody in the world to have the biggest impact on your cause and your mission, like, who would you choose and why?
So I'm picking a person and the change in the cause?
Well, you're picking a person that if you were that person, you could drive your mission a lot further and a lot faster.
So yeah, maybe I could start with the mission. I love to see an open data landscape, and more specifically, practically, maybe the GDPR rights that we have now, the right to access and the right to be forgotten, to be automated, right? If a consumer would be able to request their data to any company and request any company to delete their data through an API, I think that would change everything and would allow for RITA's cause to kind of fast forward by a couple of years. So if I would have to choose one person, it'll be Ms. von der Leyen, who could push that through the commission and kind of, on the back of the Open Data Directive and the Data Governance Act, kind of a mix between that and the open banking regulation. If she could put that forward, that would be pretty amazing. So if Ms. von der Leyen is listening today, I mean, she's got the guidelines.
I'm sure she is.
Absolutely.
That's a really good choice. Thank you so much, John. It was great having you on camera again. I'm really looking forward to keep shaping our partnership together and to work to make data sovereignty the new normal. And I think that we're gonna, like, what is it that folks say? Like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And when we're talking about something that is not just, a cooler version of a product, but a fundamental change to how we want people to engage with data and the web, I think that the only way that we can pull this off is to work together as a community, as you said before. So I'm really looking forward to the future here.
Yeah, absolutely. Likewise. I'm very much looking forward to the mainnet launch. We'll be following it closely. And yeah, really great to chat with you, Júlio. Thanks.
It was a pleasure. Have a good day.
Same to you.